Rachel.
Brittany.
I'm excited for all of the episodes that we've done.
Yes.
I'm really excited for this episode.
This is a bonus episode, a bonus drop
A
that's happening on
bonus,
a week that's not a regular week.
a bonus episode with some of our favorite people. And we are talking to the Empower KM planning team, which includes you and I, but
Oh,
we're
yes.
talking to the rest of our planning committee. And we're
Most
going to
of them.
talk about Empower KM and what we
Yes.
learned. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great conversation, kind of shedding some light behind the scenes a little bit on what we learned, what's a little bit behind the curtain, if you will, what we learned, what to expect a little bit for next year, why we did what we did, just have a little bit of fun because that's what we do. None of our conversations are really serious. I mean, none of our conversations are serious anyway. Let's be real. There's always a little bit of fun, but this one is exceptionally fun.
We take our conversations seriously, but we are
Yes. Oh,
not
always.
serious.
Yeah. No, every conversation we have is
Um,
intentional.
Exactly. But I'm excited to introduce our listeners and viewers to the rest of the team, get to know them a little bit more. And like you said, get a sneak peek, get a hint as to what is coming in February 2027, and get people to join us because I think this is a really cool thing. So
It's a
I'm
movement.
excited.
Yeah. So without
See?
any further ado, our very special bonus episode, the Empower KM episode.
I'll just do my little dance. That'll be my contribution.
Roll the intro.
What's the point of another KM podcast? Well, I tell you, we've got every kind of point, like power and share, laser and name, bullet and prize, focus and pain, power and stands for knowledge management, by the way. Laser and name, bullet and prize, focus and pain. Not another KM podcast. Not an FM or AM podcast. Not another KM podcast. Not just any other KM podcast.
Welcome, ladies, to our podcast. This is really fun. We've been looking forward to this one. We've been threatening it for a long time, and here we are. So Ashley and Jess, and of course we have Brittany. We are missing our friends Kathleen and Heather, but we are so excited to have you here today. So thank you for joining us for the official Empower KM podcast. I was going to say session, podcast, whatever. It'll be fun.
It's the crossover episode we've needed for a long time. So very happy
The
that it's
bonus
happening
episode.
Thanks for having us. I'm excited to talk about it.
I'm excited as well. Thanks so much.
Oh, sure. Well, just so that maybe Ashley and Jess, if you wouldn't mind just quickly introducing yourselves, and then we can jump into, we've got some guiding questions, but really it's going to be a conversation about kind of what we did and what we learned. But I think it would just be helpful for people who watch and listen to the podcast to just get to know both of you a little bit better. So Ashley, do you mind going first?
No, not at all. I'm Ashley Babcock. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Flying Cloud Solutions. We are a design thinking consulting firm that help you innovate with a variety of different problems and find solutions for your challenges. And then I'm also a faculty member at National University. And fun fact, I was Rachel's dissertation chair, which is how I got brought into this wonderful group.
Yeah, you were. You got to deal with me when I was at my craziest.
One of my favorite moments.
Too kind.
All right. And I'm Jess DeMay. I am a senior sales engineer at eGain Corporation. I have a pretty strong background in knowledge management with a master's and several certifications. Went to Kent State University, which is actually where I met Rachel, and Kathleen and Heather, kind of all a group from Kent State, where we all got our masters through there. Not Rachel. Rachel joined during the Midwest KM Symposium, and the rest is history. We kind of started our group there, and it's expanded, and here we are.
Yeah. I seem to be the center of the universe.
I was about to say
Certainly
you're
are.
really good at connecting people,
Hmm.
and that's how I mean, that's how you guys adopted me into this group, and then I never left, and you're stuck with me now, so I think that's kind of how
Wouldn't have it any other
Same
way.
here.
oh, thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
It's my
Um,
superpower.
bringing people together, it really is. So I know that we've had this conversation in pieces, but I'm really excited to have this conversation, like, as a group, because I think we've had some time now to breathe and kind of think about what this conference means for us individually, but also as a group. Um, a question that we have, and all of us can kind of give our reflections, but I think the first question is, when we look back at February, what was the moment that you realized, oh, wow, this conference is actually becoming a thing? And I think each of us had, as we started to plan, each of us had those kind of individual moments of like, oh, we're doing a thing is happening. But for each of you, like, what was that moment for you?
Mm. I think seeing it in person for me, right? Like we've been
Yeah.
talking about it for a couple of years, really. And just being boots on the ground, like actually seeing the event space with our logo everywhere and all the swag that we had, right? Like okay, like this is happening. People were coming in. The excitement was on all the socials. So I think that's when it really hit me, was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think similarly, that Monday when we kicked off, seeing Blackbaud for the first time, getting our logos up, we were all in swag. So that was expected. But then going over to New Realm Brewery and seeing attendees not only show up, but show up in swag too. I
Mhm.
feel like
Mhm.
that's where it really hit, where I'm like, this is a thing. This is more than just a conference. This is a whole movement to empower people. And I feel like people really got that and embodied that.
Mhm.
And sitting at New Realm and seeing people so excited for it to start and really believing in Empower KM made it real for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Brittany? I'll go after you.
I I think it was I think for me it was earlier on. I think, Rachel, it was when you told us that we had our first person purchase a ticket. Because I know that we started this conversation and it was like, oh, we're really excited about this. We think this is a good idea. And I had this moment where I was like, what if no one shows up? Like, what if we're the only ones that think that this is a great idea? Like, what if everybody just like doesn't show up? And when we had that meeting and Rachel was like, someone bought a ticket, guys. That was the moment for me that I was like, okay, even if everything else goes wrong, at least one person believes in us. We have a conference, like, it exists. And
Mhm.
I think that was the moment for me that helped me kind of get over that hump of like, what if this is too new, and what if people don't like it, and what if, all these kind of things. And then that first moment where it was like, oh no, somebody has bought a ticket, we need to show up, like, we're going to have a conference even if it's one person. I think that was the moment for me, and that really helped, kind of propel through the rest of that planning process.
Yeah. No, I would agree with all of you and echo what you're saying. And certainly the conference itself was like, okay, this is real. We did this thing. And, I remember standing there with you all and at New Realm and being like, okay, people are coming in. This is real. We had the conference, we had the closing, we had all of that. But I've also, since the conference, have been to two conferences, one internationally and one domestically, and have talked to people since then.
Mhm.
And in London, at the KM World Europe conference, people were like, "Oh, Empower KM, I heard about that. That
Mhm.
was really cool. Tell me about that. I saw it all over the internet, and that looked really big. Whether it was the global piece where we did it virtually or whether it was in person. Mary D, who Ojala, who's one of our biggest champions there, was like, and they had incredible swag. They had a room full of swag, and it was
Yeah,
just
we
was so
did.
funny and so cool to hear that. But to hear other speakers championing us was really cool. And then when I went to APQC in Houston the following week, um, you know, to people who I didn't know or recognize to be like, "Oh, you're behind Empower KM." And I was like, "Well, I'm part of a team that is behind Empower KM." And they're like, I can't wait to go next year." I was like, "Okay, so this is becoming
Mhm,
something more than just a few of us trying to get people to come to it. There are people who are excited to hear about it, or and then other people overhearing, well, what's Empower KM? And oh, well, this is this really cool conference, and having other people explain it.
mhm,
So that's for me. I had that unique perspective where I got to hear people talking about
mhm.
it. And that was really exciting for me. And that is where it started to become bigger than I imagined. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was a really unique, really cool perspective for me. Uh, but with that, every conference has at least one beautiful surprise, one beautiful mess. So what were yours? I want to hear what did this teach you about building a KM community? Your mess, your surprise. Let's hear one of each.
I think for me, the it's it's kind of two sides of the same thing. So we planned as much as possible. I remember us being very, intentional when we were selecting our speakers and when we were pushing out kind of the marketing of the type of people we wanted. Not to say that we would kick anybody out, but just we were very intentional about who the target audience of this conference was and who kind of we wanted or needed in the room, whether it was a speaker or whether it was a participant. And I know that there were some hits and misses that we had. So I think for me, it was as much as you plan, as much as you try to plan and construct different things, community is going to be what a community is. And I think that there was a lot of things that we might have expected about the types of people or the types of speakers that kind of didn't meet the expectations. But then on the flip side, the beautiful surprise was that some
Mhm.
of the people who I originally was like, I really don't know, we're going to have to see, ended up like blowing everyone away. Right. So I
Mhm.
think that what I took away from that is because the ethos of Empower KM is really emerging voices and elevating those who don't have a chance kind of other places. You can plan as much as you can, but communities are made out of humans and humans, do things. And so I think for me, it was when I expected something, it didn't necessarily happen, but then there were things that I didn't expect that turned out to be perfect. And I think for me, when we plan and as we're planning for 2027, you know, planning 90% because that 10% is going to surprise us every time, right? And I think that's just the nature of what we're trying to do, and that's fine. And that was a
Mhm.
good as a type A perfectionist in recovery, you know, it was good for me to kind of watch that happen live, right? Kind of going, oh, I didn't really expect that to happen, but everyone's dealing with it. And then, oh wow, that was actually really amazing. We need to do that again. And I
Mhm.
think that for me, that was the moment for me.
The one thing I really do feel like we planned everything down to like the T. Like we really were thoughtful in everything except considering what the weather may do. And
That's mine too.
that's where I
Yep.
was like, I didn't really consider that. Being in Charleston, South Carolina, I did not expect there to be a winter storm that impacted attendees being able to make it. And now most people got down right in time, but there were a few that were missed because of circumstances they had no control over.
Yeah.
Now, can we control that in the future? No, but it was kind of a bummer, right? To miss a couple of people that weren't able to join us in person, even though they were planning to. So hopefully the weather will cooperate next year.
That's mine too, where we were so meticulous in planning, but we didn't really have conversations about the weather or a contingency plan.
Mm-mm.
And Rachel and I living up north, like we've had a terrible winter too, but we didn't really think about that. So that was, a lot of pivoting, but I think that's my surprise too, is we pivoted so well.
Mhm.
And we switched things around, right? I think Britt, you and I went at different times than were planned, right? So we had some of that flexibility built in as well. So we could kind of pivot and be flexible.
Yeah.
Um, which I'm proud of us for building that flexibility in for a bunch of type A women that do like to plan, but we did have a lot of flexibility there.
Mhm.
Um, and then, um, like the session that we had to do via Zoom, that went great. It was
Yeah.
super engaging. It went really well. The technology worked. So even when we did have those hiccups and we had to pivot, um, it still worked out really well. And I feel like the crowd as a whole was really gracious
Mhm.
to those little changes and ebbs and flows as well. So we had our whiteout pens and we changed it on the poster and scooted things around and it all worked. But and again, we can't it's not something we could plan for next time, but now that we weathered it, right? Weathered the storm,
Mhm.
we have that schema for next time. Um, so we'll kind of be on autopilot with what to do. And maybe we'll put in some sort of protocol with contacting if there's cancellations or something. So I think
Yeah.
we'll learn and build in more to it. But it was it was a chaotic mess for a few moments, but it was a great surprise as well about how well we could recover from it. So I think it worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree there. Um, you could plan for storms, but short of flying through, a once in a what is it, once in a million year. I mean, that's kind of a exaggeration, but like what all of the um airports in New York were shut down. How could we couldn't have planned for that?
No.
So
Yeah.
it worked out. It worked out.
So Empower KM was intentionally people powered. That was something that we as a planning team really that was something that was important to us. That was something that we really went out of our way, I think, to make sure was not just part of the agenda, but was something that people really felt during the conference. What did you see participants do, either formally or informally, that showed the community leading the experience and not just like attending an event, but like that they were really part of the conference and really embracing um, the ethos of the conference.
It's a great question. The first thing that pops to my mind when you asked that was the vulnerability that
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
experienced or expressed rather. Jonathan's speech really comes to mind where I heard him talk, I think, one other time, and it was a different experience, right? I think like he felt like it was a safe place where he can talk about some of his experiences that he wouldn't feel comfortable talking about somewhere else, right? And he's not the only one. He's just the one that came to mind in the moment where you can see people maybe uncomfortable their first time speaking or never been in a crowd before, rising up,
Yeah.
like getting through that anxiety and actually speaking or being vulnerable in that moment of like, hey, FYI, this is my first time. Please bear with me. And everyone was super gracious. And of course, there to listen, support everybody. I don't feel like there was anyone there that wasn't like on that same page where they felt comfortable, they felt at ease. It felt like a community, even though most people have never met each other before. So I thought that was a really different piece uh, of the conference, and something that I mean, obviously we sought out to do the entire like this was the goal, and I feel
Yeah.
like that I think it people felt that, and that's I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, I would say when Aaron stepped up and offered accessibility training prior to the conference in our little our pre-conference, no, not training sessions but our speaking sessions, um and then explained, this is how you can help be more accessible in your sessions, but then going a step further and providing content to help make your sessions accessible, doing their Erin and Crystal doing their whole session on accessibility and then providing more content after the fact. Erin has even stepped up and offered to be the accessibility champion for our conference next year. So, that has been a way to help lead more in a formal capacity, but informally, from the get. And that's something that's really, I think, people forward, people powered. And one thing too is from the very beginning, people, whether or not they've been participants or just people who've believed in the mission, have been like, "Hey, let me know how I can help." You know, they're people want this. So just from my perspective, it's been nice to see people wanting to be part of the community, whether or not they've even, I can't come this year, but let me know how I can help. That's
Yeah.
something that I noticed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the amount of support, especially starting from those speaking sessions, we had great turnouts for
Yeah.
those, right? We had a ton of people come in, people asked questions, they were engaged. So I feel like the engagement from the beginning really showed that community. They asked thoughtful questions. Like you said, Erin offered to help. They already started to support one another. Um, when some of them were vulnerable in that session and saying that they were already nervous, people started to rally around them. And
Mhm.
then I think at the conference, when you did have a few speakers, right before their session with a little bit of nerves, there was a community around them that kind of supported them, talked them up. Um, and I think from the outside, I don't think a lot of people would have known that a lot of us, it was the first time meeting in person
Yeah.
Yeah.
because there was so much camaraderie and friendship and support and vulnerability and just asking for help, right? Asking for somebody to take a walk with them and get their head straight. And it might not have been somebody that they even knew well, right? But
Yeah.
it really showed what a safe, collaborative space it was. And I think that really resonated with me.
I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, kind of like what Jess was saying, was you can put people together in a room. You can't necessarily make them get along or be super supportive of strangers, right? And we
Mhm.
had multiple times, because I know that we rotated rooms to kind of do, take notes and cover things and take photos. But at least in the rooms that I was in multiple different things, when a speaker was having an issue or saying, like, okay, this is my first time, I'm really nervous, people would just break out into applause and be like, you can do this, you got this is great. And they didn't know each other. And you
Mhm.
can't, you could go around and be like, okay, everybody be nice to each other, but like we're all adults. Right? But there was something that was so gratifying about seeing people just organically and naturally be there for each other. People who had never, met each other, and then people who were even, we did have some, well-known knowledge management people who were in these rooms who didn't bring that ego with them, right? It was just like, you guys are doing a really great job. Like, I'd love to hear more about this. Like, and you can't make people do that. That happens or it doesn't.
Mhm.
And I was so
Mhm.
proud that we had the environment around us as a team, but then also in that space where people felt like they could do that. And that just happened organically. And I obviously, that's something that I hope continues, right? Because I think that's the whole point of why we planned this in the first place. But it was something where I had to look around the room and be like, this is awesome. This is great.
Mhm.
And the fact that there was only like 50 or 60 people, I think even made it better because I was so proud that we had created this environment where it was something that was happening organically. And I hope that that is something, I want that to be something that, continues obviously as we continue to do this conference.
Yeah, same. And I'll say too, because I know we're talking a lot about the in-person portion at Charleston, but even watching the community on the virtual global side,
Hmm.
some of the comments that were coming in as our speakers were speaking and the engagement was pretty phenomenal, at least in the room I was in. It was really supportive and like, wow, that's a really great perspective. And thank you for sharing and asking a lot of really great questions and just really good engagement and conversation and things that I don't want to say you don't often see, but I feel like the space that we had built there as well offered the opportunity for people to contribute in those
Mhm,
kind of ways where you might not be able to do that in other virtual environments, right? Not to say that it's not impossible to do it, but I know for my perspective, I'm not always comfortable adding the comments or
mhm.
being able to contribute in the virtual platforms. So it was nice that people felt comfortable being able to contribute where they could in the virtual space. So that was nice to see as well. So just trying to be able to see those that community, just kind of piggyback off of what you were saying. It might not have been the same exact interaction, but to be able to at least try to build that community vibe in the sense that we could, with the tool that we had at the time, it's still nice to see.
Mhm.
So if you could bottle one behavior, mindset, moment from Empower KM and then inject it to every KM team in the world so we could take it over, right? Make a million KM teams of Empower KM vibe, what would it be?
I think I mean, we've said it a few times now, but making it about the people,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't matter what the documentation is, what the technology is. It
yeah,
really matters how the people are involved and meeting people where they are, making sure the information is accessible, it's viewed in multiple different ways or available in multiple different ways. It's putting the people first, I think, is going to is easily something that can be done. It costs nothing, right? To
yeah,
make sure that you're asking the questions of what the people need. Um, and we did that as a conference team as well, right? Like, were there things that we learned and can do better next year, like asking dietary restrictions ahead of time? Yes, yes, we can do
yeah,
that, and we will. But we asked what people needed. A few people reached out and said, like, it'd be really great to have a speaker session. So we did that, right? Like, giving the support of what our attendees needed and then adjusting and adapting that can easily be mimicked in a KM team in any organization. But you have to keep that top of mind, right? Don't let that be forgotten.
yeah. Good call out on the dietary restriction piece. I can't believe we even forgotten about that.
It'll work out just fine.
Also get a real email because the Gmail gets blocked by my employer. Want to announce it
Who
here,
knew?
folks. We have a real email at empowerkm.com.
Yes.
It's real. We'll be rolling that out in our show notes for you.
I think I'm with Jess. I think it's this, what is the word I'm looking for? Like knowledge equity. It's people first. It's making sure that people feel like their voice is heard. And it's not something that's this like soft kumbaya nice thing to do. It's really strategic. And I think that, and we showed it in the conference, but it's definitely a behavior that any team and any organization could do is when people feel heard and when they feel like their concerns are listened to and when they feel like they are taken into account, people share more, people want to be involved more, the participation is much more meaningful and less scripted, right? And we saw that in real time at the conference. And so I think that there is something in this world where agentic AI is going to save us and we're all going towards the tech side, the people side to balance that, not just from like a quality control perspective and the technical stuff, but just knowledge management comes from people. And so I think yeah, I think that's what I would say as far as, it's something that any team, it doesn't cost you any money, right? Um, when that is there and when that psychological safety, to use that term, is there, I think that unlocks so many things that just focusing on the tech and the hard skills and like doesn't do.
I like that term, knowledge equity. And then that's what I was thinking too is even though we didn't ask dietary restrictions, they felt safe enough to tell us, right? People felt safe enough to reach out and collaborate and have conversations. Um, Josh in his keynote said knowledge management is everything, right? And I think we embodied that a lot in the conference where we brought community, there was empowerment, there was that psychological safety. So all of that came from the people. And it was very strategic. We really did try to create an environment that was about people empowering and community. And I think we hit a home run with that. I think we really, really embodied that. And that piece is what I think if we could inject and infuse in all of the KM, the world would be a better place.
Yeah. I mean, I called it out that, like, I'm part of the problem, right? Like, I intentionally chose to not speak at the conference. I mean, I was part of the contingency plan to speak if we had one more person not come because of snow, right? Like, I was part of the contingency plan, of course, but, even in our marketing, I was like, I am part of the problem. I speak at all of the conferences and, except for APQC this year, had to get that in one more time. And I want to make sure that there is a platform for people to come in and to speak, and that we were able to create that space for people to have a place where they can try and they can trip up and that they can, try again. And I think I was in a session where somebody started something and they're like, wait, can I try that again? And I respect that. Um,
Mhm.
and like you said, because we created such a space and we were vulnerable in our, hey, this is our first year, we're going to make mistakes, but tell us how we can improve, right? Because we set that expectation up front, I think our participants felt as though they could do the same. So, I would love for every other KM team to be focused on people, to be able to be focused on, uh, I don't want to say embracing failure, but embracing the opportunity to try again,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't want you to be like, yay, failure. But hey, we made a mistake and that's just a chance to try again, right? Um,
Mhm.
there's no mistake that you can't come back from, at least in my mind, right? Like,
I agree.
mistakes happen. And it's like I tell my kids constantly, like, you can't, like, I'm not mad at the mistake. I'm mad at you not trying again. And I'm
Mm.
not even mad. I'm just like, I'd like to encourage you trying again. Um, so that's where I'd go with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that kind of um so building on that, what is one thing that you'd absolutely repeat for next year? So like what's something that we should absolutely do again next year? What is something that we would absolutely not do again next year? And what's something that we could like push the envelope on that we didn't necessarily do this year that we should probably do next year?
So I don't think we've talked about this yet, but kind of that the format that we applied for all speakers to encourage collaboration and not just speaking at people, but doing some sort of activity or, you
Yeah.
know, putting people in groups or whatever the case is. I think that's absolutely something we should continue to follow, right? Having a set time to talk about, educate, encourage people to listen, but then also having that other half of their time to do some sort of activity. I still have the papers that Lauren passed out in her session. Like, I think that like there are things that are takeaways that can be totally reused again. So this isn't just a session to come listen to people. It's you're walking away feeling like you can redo some of these things in your own organization, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
learning, you have takeaways. Not do again from the virtual piece. I think that we need more time in between sessions. So that is, and I think we heard that from pretty much every single person there was like, we need a little bit more time to let the next speaker, kind of set up, to not feel rushed, to have a quick break to go get a drink or do whatever. That is definitely something that we've learned, we've heard, and we will, of course, adjust. Pushing the envelope, that's, I'm not sure on that one. I think maybe um, we kind of heard this, but having even more, or like something that our attendees were seeking is having more of a way to interact with each other, right? So of course, everyone connected on LinkedIn, they have that, but offering some sort of platform to message between each other, to have additional ways to communicate with each other is something I think was sought, like that our attendees sought after, that we didn't really include this past year. So something to consider for next year, but really building that community beyond just the couple of days we're together in Charleston, but having a way to keep it up even after. I think that's kind of our collective team goal, but something that we can really look into and hopefully provide.
Yeah, I think the community and the events were amazing. I definitely think we can do the community and events again next year, maybe different ones, but still having the events after hours, because it keeps that community going, it keeps the conversation going. It helps kind of curate the area a little bit for people and gets them out of the hotel room, gets them, continually talking and interacting with one another. I think that's a definite must have. I agree with Jess with the not do again. That was a sprint for the virtual sessions. A 7-hour sprint that none of us could really eat or do much, right?
Yeah, it was ambitious.
Lesson learned.
And it went exceedingly well for the pace that we had. But doing it at the end of a 2-day conference and then having to sprint like that, we were all exhausted at the end of that. So I like the idea of having it on the front end this time, having a little bit more space. So we learn, right? But we also learned of what we can do, because we put together a heck of a virtual conference in a very fast pace. But now we can kind of break it up a little more. And then pushing the envelope. I know we've talked a little bit about this. I would love to see professional development workshops and some coaching and mentoring sessions that people can do, because I think that's going to help create the community. It's also going to give people the opportunity to take away a little bit more knowledge, maybe in something slightly different than what the sessions provide. So I'm excited about that opportunity and looking forward to developing that more for next time.
To not to duplicate the already really good suggestions, I think just building on what Ashley just said, the professional development piece and really having Empower KM not just be a conference that we do once a year and then we go back, and then we do it once a year and then we go back, but to have it be something that it is, an event. It's really important on the calendar. It kind of kicks off the calendar year for knowledge management conferences, but it's a space where people can gain leadership development skills or mentoring skills. It's a space where we can do things in between the conferences that get people excited about it, but also build their capacity. So I do think that there's a lot that we can do in that space that, obviously culminates kind of with that conference, but it's a community that's then, continued all year round. And I know that we've been brainstorming as a group, kind of those things that we can do. So I'm excited to put those into practice. I think we should repeat, they've already been, Jess and Ashley, you articulated it really well, like repeating the way I think, structuring the sessions themselves and having the different types of speakers and being very intentional about who, is speaking and all of that, the thought that goes behind that. I think we should keep the food. I think that's one one thing we heard was that the food was really great. And Rachel, something that you shared with us about previous conferences in the past, not to like put anybody on blast, but as far as us, at Power KM having really good food, I think that's something that we should keep, working with Blackbot on for next year. I think we've talked about what, things that we could do better next time. A lot of it is like logistical stuff. I think making sure that people know, again, just how they can communicate with each other, how they can keep in touch with each other, whether the conference app we use has a connection feature if people want to chat a little bit more. I think giving them that option, not everyone will take advantage of the option, but just to have that option, it sounds like they were really interested in. I think just having it be much more of an ecosystem. is something that now that we've done our pilot year, we know it works. We know people show up, we know people are interested in it. And now we can accelerate, right? And so now we can iterate on that. And so I think that's really exciting. So I'm excited to do that.
Yeah. Echoing all of you, like, not to repeat, right? But we did it. We had a really incredible pilot year, both virtually on the global stage and in person. And that's something in and of itself to be super proud of. Like, Jess, Ashley, Brittany, and then Kathleen and Heather to come together and to do something like this is huge. And I think we should do it again. So the third week of February 2027. So that is the 15th of February through the 19th of February, that week. That's in the US, that is President's Day is on the 15th, on that Monday. We will not be doing anything on the Monday itself, but it will be sometime between the Tuesday and the Friday. We are not sure what order of events things will be yet, but just to save the date, it will be the third week of February, um, the Tuesday through the Friday, some iteration, some time period between there. Whether or not it'll be global first this time with adequate breaks in between the sessions, or with a professional development day at the end, or whether it's flip-flopped, we're not sure yet, but we're going to be doing some really cool stuff. We do have a fancy new email. It is team@empowerkm.com. That will be in the show notes. Feel free to email us and say hi. Uh, that will be rolled out. The website, empowerkm.com, still has last year's information on it because I have yet to update it with new information yet, except for I think it says look out for the third week of February. I think that is up there.
It is.
But there will be some pricing information coming up. There will be some other information coming up soon. So keep a lookout. That's where to find all of our information. Of course, we have our community information on LinkedIn. We have a community page. We have a newsletter on Substack, which is super exciting, brand new thing. Brittany has been behind that. What else am I missing, ladies?
I would like to call out all of our sponsors for last year. I think that's a pretty big one, right? Blackbot, of course. They had so many speakers and they provided this beautiful space for us. So thank you to them. Of course, Emory Consulting,
Yeah.
our amazing Rachel Teague from there, Nina,
Yes.
really great and supportive of the conference, and really appreciate them. And then, of course, Flying Cloud with Ashley
Yeah.
and Josh. Really couldn't have done it without such a great group of sponsors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, and KM World for being a collaborator sponsor, as well as Knowledge Summit Dublin for being another great voice in the KM community. We love to sponsor other voices in the KM community as well. So good call out, Jess. Thank you for that. Anything else I'm missing as far as shout outs, call outs?
Just, I guess, thank you to all of our participants for our inaugural year. It was something where, as we planned this, because what people might not know is that this just started as an idea. It was a good idea, but it was just an idea in a WhatsApp group that we had, and we ran with it. And you all showed up. You all took a chance on us, quite frankly. And it was something that was different, and it was something that was new, which is exciting, but is also, sometimes change is difficult. And we did have some people who were like, that sounds really interesting. Let me know how it goes and I'll attend next year, right? So I just want to give a shout out to those participants who joined us this first year. You will forever be the inaugural group, the inaugural cohort. We look forward to welcoming you in future conferences, in future, initiatives that we do. You can help us support, future cohorts of Empower KMers. And so just to give all of them a shout out, they know who they are. And for those of you who weren't able to join us, we look forward to welcoming you next year. So Rachel gave you the dates. You'll have all the information in the show notes, and we look forward to meeting you all.
Yeah. So Ashley and Jess, thank you for being on our very special bonus episode. coming out on an off week for us. But this is a special episode.
Bonus.
Hey,
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you.
Of
thank you
course.
for having us.
This episode of Not Another KM podcast was edited by me, Rachel Teague. It was produced by Rachel Teague and Brittany Persinger. Our fantastic theme music was created by Chase Tremaine Music. Questions, comments, quips, quotes, or conundrums? Reach out to us at nakmpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support.